This episode is sponsored by Zenro Clothing Co. Pick up your tees and or accessories at zenroclothingco.com and be sure to use offer code Socrates at checkout for 20% off select items. Also, if you're not into spending the money, just check out the Zenrail radio playlist. zenrailclothingco.com, music for your everyday. This episode also sponsored by The Pointy Bakery. If you're located in the Pointy area of Scarborough, Toronto, be sure to check out The Pointy Bakery, say what's up to Arville, and pick up a donut or two. Baked daily, crafted with love. This episode also sponsored by Podbean. Podbean is the podcasting platform of choice. It's the one that me and Vish use, and is great, you know, if you're looking to start that DIY podcast yourself. Definitely check out Podbean. Use the link podbean.com/SocraticGamers and gain 1 month of unlimited podcasting for free. Test it out, build that content. Anyone could podcast, right, Vish?
Yep.
Start a podcast and get your ideas out there. All right, enjoy the episode. Okay, it's so funny because last week, well, as the week was drawing closer to this like podcast, I was like, I wonder what we're going to talk about. I always think that, right? Like we're always like, oh, what's the new thing? But it's funny how so many things can change in 1 week, or like so many things can happen, right? And you're just like, oh, dude, we have so many topics now. So hopefully we can get through them. And we won't go like too crazy. But I wonder what we're going to start with first. So you want to talk about the Putin interview first?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. So you watched the whole thing. I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was like 2 hours, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. And it was probably the most I don't know, like all right, I'm gonna give you my interpretation, you tell me your interpretation. So I thought it was like very logical and measured, and it wasn't like he was like bashing. You know what I'm saying? Like
who was not bashing?
Putin. Can you just check the levels really quick?
Yeah.
Maybe I should need to. All right, I should need to lower mine then. Okay. So it didn't seem like he was. It didn't seem like it was like an emotional, like, dance. Okay, I juxtaposed this because I was watching this thing about like Trudeau in the parliament, and he was talking to like the opposition, and like he started yelling, and then the opposition, it's like the Republicans, they were like, "Oh wow, he lost his cool."
Conservatives.
And I was like, "Yeah, conservatives. Yeah, they're all the same." He
not
even
really.
said that
they're not
too,
the same though.
They're obviously right. Obviously not the same. Just kidding. But like, Putin even brought that up too. He's like, "Does anybody even know how that governance works?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's true." But I mean, obviously it's not Canadian, but Canadian and like that's American, sure. And like I'm talking about Canada, but how many people really know how governance actually works?
Yeah.
And as I was watching Trudeau's address to the other side, he was so like, it was empty. You know what I'm saying? So like he was like, we're gonna bring out the gun stuff, and we're just gonna bring protection around. Then the opposition was like, what are you talking about? What have you? Oh wait, hold on.
That's weird. Yeah.
That's right. So as the leaves behind. I'll backtrack for a second. So as I was watching Trudeau talk about his stance, you know, like how he's going to solve issues, it was kind of like empty. There was nothing that he was saying that was like this, then this, then this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It was more like platitudes.
Sure.
I felt like, and the other side was attacking him for that. He's like, well, you know, you block gun control, but like violence is up 300%. That's your statistic. That's what you said. And then Trudeau's like, we will bring back the power. It was like, okay, you didn't say anything, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you juxtapose that to the Putin interview, this guy was just spitting facts. And then it was like, up to you. Like, all right, you fact check that, bro. Mm-hmm. And if you fact check it, it was kind of like, if he's right, that's going to look bad.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah.
And I feel like that was my interpretation. What was your interpretation of the interview?
The interview was not at all hostile as most interviews get when they go talk
Yeah.
to leaders. So that's why it was more like Putin was able to say what he wanted to say without getting interrupted, right? Without having to deal with like there are journalists that are knowing of the facts going in, so they're able to ask more direct questions into it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Tucker Carlson did that. So which allowed Putin to just go on with his story.
Which you mean is like the agenda. Like everyone always comes to a thing. This is why I like the interview, because it wasn't agenda oriented. Although Tucker kept trying to like remember at the end he was trying to release that prisoner.
Sure. Yeah.
He's like, well, you know, like there was some like preconceived notions there, but
there was like lines in there. I don't know if you picked up that, but where it's like kind of making fun of Tucker Carlson at the same time. He was.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Putin's a clever guy.
Yeah.
And
well, he comes from KGB, right? So.
Yeah, totally. So it's not just. This is the thing about it. It's like when you come from that background and you come with like facts. It's not really like I don't know if they were true or not. That was the thing. Like when I posted that little clip, I was like, "We need to fact check this because if he's like telling the truth, but it might be bad if we fact check it because
no." The main thing with when I watched it, I didn't see anything that was new. I've heard all of this
from Putin before.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that's the problem too because if you're like, "Hey, I didn't hear anything new," I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm kind of siding with this guy then because I get your point." You know, but I think that was the
no. What I mean with that is like it wasn't anything new in the sense of these are things when it first happened or when the fight first started between Ukraine that this was their justification to their Russian people why they're doing it.
Okay, yeah, totally. Okay, so if nothing new has changed in his tune, but okay, so we'll go with that first. So if these are your rationales, because I didn't look into this, I was like, okay, it's just a war, whatever. I'm not gonna support both sides. Like everyone just started getting like the stand with Ukraine thing, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm sure there's something going on, but unless I look into it, it's like, why am I gonna back that for no reason?
Mm-hmm.
But Putin brought that up. He's like America is the ultimate propaganda machine. And I'm like, yeah, how many people really looked into it and just started supporting it? That's why I was like, I don't know, right? Because I'm sure it's messier than what we're being presented with, right? And so what I really liked about the interview too, the humanization was like, instead of fighting him, you just let him speak and you're like, okay, I understand your point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not
right.
It's not like you're bad and this is why you're bad. It's like, okay, why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, that actually I can understand why.
Sure. Yeah.
You're doing it now, and that humanizes him and makes it more like he's not the boogeyman that you're portraying him to be.
Yeah.
If he was in that interview and he's like, I just want to rule the world, I want to kill people, whatever, you're like, oh, okay, you're an evil guy. But he was like, no, like look at the history. This is why we're doing it, and we're in our rights to do it. I'm like, wow, all right. That's pretty logical. And when he said like the thing he was painting was like all sides do it. It's not just us. You know, like how
do what?
Like Ukraine's like a satellite country for America. Like we're funneling the money and like they're fighting this war on our behalf. It's like a proxy war, right? You're funding Ukraine to fight Russia,
right?
And then Russia's just like, hey, why are you doing that? Like, obviously, you're being backed by someone else. So, all right. And then, although he put his point of view, and you're like, I see that logically. Yes, you make sense. He's like, but both sides are doing because it's literally just like a satellite country proxy war thing going on, and you're like, yeah, but it is. You know, like.
Mm-hmm.
So then what's the justification on our end now to be like, we need to stop you? Because he even said, remember, he's like, the Tucker Carlson, would you want amicable solution just through like discussion? He's like, yeah, we tried that. And then he was like, go ask your president what was said. And you're like, okay,
right.
You're You're not even bashing them. You're just like, you're putting the spotlight on them. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
you really think I'm wrong? Go ask them.
Sure.
And
Right.
then you're like, ooh, bro. And then again, if he's right, and they did try and do it peacefully, but they didn't want that, and then the question becomes, why didn't you allow that?
I don't know when.
And what's really going on?
I looked into some of those things. So when he's saying peacefully, was it after the attack? Well, after the war already started?
I don't know. Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, he said
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Like it was already happening, and then, then because the big fear is everyone's like, oh, is it going to be World War III?
Mhm.
Right? We have a nuclear holocaust, right?
Yeah.
And he even said himself, he's like, no, we don't want that. Obviously, we don't want that. But what's the painting on our side, right? Which is like, oh, you never know when he's gonna drop a nuke.
True.
If he drops it, then we're gonna drop it.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, what? That's mutually. He even said it's mutually assured destruction.
Mm-hmm.
So now, all right, we can count that out. So okay, he's not crazy. He's not just like warmongering. What's your motive? And then you hear his motive, and you're like, okay, that's a fair point. Like I see, you know what I mean? It's like it's not just black and white. I think that's what this thing.
Yeah,
shows.
nothing is black and white. Of course not.
But it's being portrayed as black and white. That's what he's saying, like the propaganda machine. Like I'm the boogeyman, but like I have my reasons too.
Sure. Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Did you come away with that, or were you thinking something else?
No. Because I already knew a lot of the stuff he mentioned, right?
Okay, yeah. No, but and then in this thing, like as he's saying it, were you like, oh, okay, you make a lot of sense and you're human.
I would say, like, I don't know if these facts are true. That's the main thing I was getting at it, because he was able to just say whatever he wanted to say, right?
For sure. And that's the wild part, though, because now it's on us to do the research behind it.
Yeah. No, but like even the peace talks thing that I read about that way before, like when that was happening, and that was, my understanding was that this was right after the fight, or when they were losing, when Ukraine was losing.
Okay.
I think they got up to Kyiv, right? And then Ukraine was able to start like holding them off. So that's where it was the fear of Ukraine not having support from outside.
And that's why they had the peace talks?
That's why we don't even know what the peace talks even entailed, right? Like this would be the peace talks if it's coming from Russia. We want this control, whatever, right? So if Ukraine is to survive, then they would probably have to agree, because there's no one's going to help Ukraine. So if Ukraine is going to get help, then there's no need to sign a peace talk.
Okay, yes. Totally. And you mentioned how we won't know what the peace talks were about, right? And for sure, that's true. But I think the genius of what he did is say, look into it for yourself.
Yeah, because but I think that most people won't be doing that.
No, 100%. No, 100%.
That's 100%. That's why I think Putin won in that scenario.
No. I disagree here. I think he was doing that because he's like, if you do it, you're going to unravel a giant rabbit hole. So like with the UAP thing, right? And I think I'm watching like Chris Tucker. Oh no, not Chris Tucker. What's his name? Chris Cuomo. And he was talking about the Epstein thing. And he's talking about UAPs. And then what he was saying is like the unraveling of like what's going on. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
And if you look into UAPs, you're like, oh, somebody's hiding some money, right? Epstein, like, why are they making us like obsessively look at this topic? Stuff like that, right? It's just like I don't want to say a psyop, but it's literally just like a giant psyop on our own people, right? And that's why I was like, it's pretty genius that he said that, because if you are willing to look into it objectively, you're going to find a whole host of things, like more skeletons in the closet than just this war.
Okay.
And right. And what's the quickest way to dismantle a government? Distrust. You're like, well, I don't trust my government anymore.
Yeah, and that's why Putin's playing a really good game in this way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, hey, just look into it.
Yeah.
But that's why I was like, it could be really bad if you look into it, because if he's telling the truth, it's like, what
But
other things are you guys lying
they're
about?
already looking into it, right? That's why, like, after
No,
that
no,
interview came
people.
out. Oh no,
No,
the
no.
articles that are coming out, like if what he's
Oh,
saying
okay.
is factual or not.
Okay, cool. So it just came out, this like interview, so we just have to wait, a little
Hmm.
bit for the fact checking. And, I'm not going to do that fact checking. I'm going to rely on like a reporter to be like, hey, this is true, this is not true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because how are you going to vet that, right? But it is opening up an interesting can of worms, I think. And which is fascinating, because there's so many other things going on aside from this war that are making you like, what else is going on?
Hmm.
With like, especially the UAP thing. For me, that was like, okay, it's pretty obvious something's going on, but you're still trying to make it seem like we're all ridiculous for thinking something's going on.
Right, right.
So that's kind of like shady already, right? And then he puts in the mix like, hey, look into what's going on in the actual war. And you're like, okay, well, that's also shady. So how many more shady things,
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
do we have to worry about? You know what's crazy? Before the internet, there's I think I was telling your brothers. I don't know if I mentioned on the podcast, but there's a church committee. It's like called a church committee style hearing.
Hmm.
So basically, what it is like they put all the people who are on trial in front of them, and then just everyone asks questions, right? I guess kind of like what you see at the Senate.
Sure.
When
Okay.
they're like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when they do like the Mark Zuckerberg stuff, and then everyone's like asking them questions. I think it's kind of like that. But they did that for the CIA back in, I don't know, like 1980s or something like that,
Hmm.
when they were finding out that the CIA was running ops on its own people, like psychological ops,
Right.
right? So because there was no internet back then, that didn't spread like wildfire. But imagine if we started seeing like, hey, the CIA is going through this church committee thing, everyone would be tuning in like, what?
Hmm.
We've been lied to, you know? And then it makes you wonder like, how far does this propaganda go?
Sure.
Just
Right.
me or like you see that too?
How far does the propaganda go? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like you feel like do you feel like there's like some shady stuff going on? Or are you like, oh, I'm like
In
pretty
the war,
trusting?
in the war, or
No, just in general. Like, because the war is one thing, right?
yeah, yeah.
And Putin's like, hey, look into the war. And you're like, oh, okay. And then like UAPs, hey, look into UAPs. Oh, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you start questioning why things are happening the way they're happening.
Hmm.
But so I'm wondering, does that fill you with a sense of like distrust, or are you still like, I trust the government, they know what they're doing?
It depends on the situation.
Okay. Do you think that there's like a weird shadow government going on? Like there's like the top level, and then underneath, you know, there's like these
Uh,
people pulling the strings.
I don't think so. Not necessarily in that way. Yeah.
Okay, why don't you believe that?
That's just
I'm curious.
how. It's just that the way that our democracy works, right?
Okay,
You're
what
saying
what do you
like
mean?
the things that are working behind, like you would say like the
Yeah, like
CIA.
shady. No, but like shady ops that are like, yeah, sure, the CIA.
Now,
Like, do you think everything's on the up and up, or do you think that there's the
now
potential
I
for?
think it depends on what you mean. So is CIA doing things to promote American success in a way?
Okay, so, like, what do you mean by that?
So is it to benefit America?
Okay, yeah, for sure. But like, whose definition of a benefit for America? Like, is a benefit for America keep us docile? We're not American, but is it like keep them docile?
Or
You
keep
know
the
what I'm saying? Like,
power,
it's
or keep the power with America?
so. But then who becomes the gatekeeper for that decision? Is it the president? Is it the people that
There.
have careers in?
No, I get that, but I think in the sense that when you're working for CIA, you're working for FBI, you're working for the America.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
No, for sure, for sure.
for the
So it's
growth of
like
America.
right. But whose definition of the growth of America? So let me explain. So the president is voted in by the people
Mm-hmm.
to do the bidding of the people. But what if there's somebody's like, yeah, the people don't really know what they're doing. We said multiple times it's just like herding cats. So what if at the highest level they're like, yeah, we're just herding cats. So we're gonna trick them. We're gonna like keep them enslaved. We're gonna do this stuff because it's better for them.
I think it's just difficult to do that when you've got different kinds of people. You know, you're seeing how Republicans run, how Democrats run their races.
Okay.
They're talking about different things.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. But okay. So if you're talking about Democrats and Republicans, you're thinking more along the lines of the president makes all the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is, I think that there are things that the president doesn't fully know about, and because of that, those are the people really pulling the strings. And my case in point for this one is the UAP stuff. That's what Chris Cuomo was saying. He's like, I don't care about bodies, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care about bodies either. I mean, it'd be cool, it'd be wild, but it's not really about the bodies. It's more about like what's being hidden. Because they tell the American people, hey, there's nothing going on here. So then why are you putting millions and millions of dollars towards it? Why are you pulling a team towards it?
Right.
That's what Chris Cuomo said. He's like, obviously something's going on because you're putting resources towards it. If you weren't putting resources, then there's literally nothing. They're just like, hey, come to the room, we'll show you, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that there's secrecy is like, okay, so what's going on? We're being protected for our own good against something.
Yeah, maybe.
Which means we're not in power.
There's
People aren't in power. Like superficially, yeah, all right, I want to change the road. Okay, I want to like pay less taxes. Cool. But like in terms of real power, like keeping the country on top, we have no say in that. Vietnam War. Hey, we should stop. We should get out of Vietnam. Like, no, we're gonna keep going. You guys don't know that we actually need this in order to keep our position of power within the world.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Sure.
So that's why I don't think the president or the people are in power. I think it's like something else is going on. There's like an extra layer of decision making that we're not privy to. Can you see that logical line of thought though? Like you're like, okay,
I can see that, but I don't know. I still think these mistakes happen, or like going into war if there's influence from the president, right? So like going into Iraq, that was a Bush decision, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But that was the wrong war to go. Like we know that,
but
right?
But the intelligence surrounding it, now that it's like years and years past, they're like, yeah, we didn't have the full intelligence there. And that's why we're all saying, yeah, it was because of oil. You just needed to position yourself in that. Okay. So if it was actually about oil, not actually about like saving people, then there it is again, where it's like, we're just going to tell the people this, but we're actually really doing it for this. Which is my point about the shadow government. You know?
I think that this stuff is there if you know where to look, if you know where to read these articles.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I think if you understand where Ukraine fits in the not geopolitics, yeah, like geopolitics or the trade routes, things like that.
Yeah, no, totally, for sure. But it's like, why is it not getting played in the media as often? Because it's like, we can't really tell you guys what's going on. That's why I think the Tucker Carlson interview with Vladimir Putin, he's an independent journalist now. He got like fired or something, right? And he put this up, and he's like, "Yeah, the world, check this out."
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that's where the power is. Like the true journalism is independent journalism. You said this before, but that's because there's no like strings attached to it. Right? Whereas like if it's state-run media, not state-run, obviously not. Like they say there's like a separation between news media and the government, right? Keeps them accountable. If that's true, then why we find out about Operation Mockingbird, where CAA people were paying people in the news media to like hide certain stories.
Right.
So that came out. So it's like these are all those things that allude to like the secret government that's really running the show.
Sure.
So would you agree? Or like you're still?
I think it depends on the situation. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like so, there are certain secret government things going on for certain things, but not other.
Sure.
Things.
Yeah. That's intelligence and stuff. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, but that's my point about they'll let you vote on like simple things, like okay, yeah, taxes, immigration, yeah, whatever. But like the real things, there's 100%. We're not even privy to that information. We actually aren't privy to that information. That's why presidents get briefed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then what's really going on? Then it's like we are living in this false reality that's being presented towards us based off of the filter that's chosen by higher ups.
Yeah, this is the thing where I think people dwell too much on federal politics when that doesn't actually directly affect your life compared to the local politics.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
which is sense. The boring one, but yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, for sure. But okay, yeah. So, all right, I see what you're saying. Like, we really don't have power at a higher level. We only have the power, but it's more glamorous to look at the higher level.
Sure, of course, yeah. It's much more entertaining. Yeah,
for sure. It's much more entertaining. But what I'm really trying to get at is like, I feel like the seeds of doubt have been sown, and these seeds might actually be real seeds. Like what they're alluding to is real issues that need to be solved. You know what I'm saying? Which is like conspiracies.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah. Like I get your point of view of like I'm sure that through the checks and balances things will be figured out, sure. But like that's your point of view, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct? Which is like, oh, I'm sure it'll work itself out because I trust how the government works. Right?
Yeah. Like I mean, so, is it and now they're asking these questions about where where do they lose those military funds? Where they like these are the questions being asked right in Congress and stuff, right? So
right, but it's reliant on the whistleblowers.
Sure.
So what I'm saying is, okay, so you're like, okay, I believe in the government, but I'm like, I only believe in the government to the extent with which they'll allow us to see, because it took the whistleblowers to tell us what was really going on.
Mm-hmm.
It took their conscience, right? Which automatically proves that there's like some shady stuff going on. Because without the whistleblowers, we would think like everything's fine, but it's like actually everything's not fine.
Yeah, right.
Surveilled at all times,
mm-hmm.
right? So by definition, then there's some shady stuff going on. Because why would there be whistleblowers if there wasn't shady stuff?
But that's what works in the way of making things accountable, I guess. People that actually do their job, what they're supposed to be doing, right? In the sense of working for them.
No, but like, I see what you're saying. Like the people that actually believe in the American freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Like Snowden, right? He's like,
sure,
we work for the American people, so I have to tell you guys that this is going on.
Yeah. If honesty is not there, things can get corrupt.
Yeah, and I think that honesty isn't there. It's true though. Like we're seeing it. Like you're not being upfront about what's going on, but. All right, we can wax philosophical about this all we want and sound like weird conspiracy theorists, but at the end of the day, it's like we nobody knows what's going on in that high level position. And I'm sure there's some crazy stuff that we're not like, if the UAP thing is real and they know and they're like talking to extraterrestrial beings and stuff, like you, like, what are you going to do in that situation as a human being, right? You're like, so it's like, hey, Vish, turns out extraterrestrials are real. Should we tell the people? You're like, oh, what are the cost benefit of that?
Right.
You know? So all that to be said is just that they have a really hard job. And I could see why these conspiracies would come about because you can't, you know, you can't control the masses without a few lies. For real, though.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else that jumped out at you at the Putin interview?
Well, I mean, he didn't ask about some things that I wanted to know.
Oh, like what?
Oh, just his not I don't want to say rivals, but like his opposition people in his own country.
Killed off.
Yeah.
They allegedly killed off. Yeah.
Well, sure. I don't know if Alexei's killed or dead, but I know he's jailed. Yeah. That he had poisoned and stuff like that. Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, but okay, so that's all right. So you're like,
so that like there's no that's what I'm saying. Like there's no opposition to him because they'll just die or get.
Okay, so for sure. So you're like, oh, what happened to that guy? But you know, CIA kills people all the time. We have like drone strikes. We have like, you know, like there is. Okay, all right. Case in point, this David Grush thing, the UAP person. He's like, my life was threatened. Okay, meaning that there are some people out there who will kill you if you go against what the true motive is. Right. Like if you tell the American people about UAPs, we're going to kill you. Right. How is that any different than Putin being like, hey, man, I'm trying to keep this country together. If you go against me, I'm going to kill you.
We don't know if that's from the government, though, right? Do we know that?
Which one?
For David Grush?
Yeah, he said that he's going to talk about it soon, but he can't right now because he put in, it was like, not a report, but he's going through the proper channels for that. Because he's like, certain agencies are trying to attack me, but if I just like name it, it just kind of like messes up the reporting system. He's trying to use the system to correct the system, basically.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's certain agencies that run with the government. He just can't like openly admit it.
Right.
But okay, so how is that any different? So if the government's silencing its own people, just Putin's more sloppy about it, so we like get upset at him for that, you know? If we're running the same tactics is what I mean.
Yeah, no, I understand. No, I'm saying he could do whatever he wants, but these are the things that would cause people not to trust Putin as to what he says.
Yeah, which is propaganda, which is what he brought up. He's like, America's the ultimate propaganda machine. So, yeah, you can paint me out to be a bad guy, but I'm doing the same things you guys are doing. Right? We just don't openly talk about it here because we like silence the messenger. Like, all right, so would you agree on that? That it's like, it's just propaganda?
For who?
To like America, like controlling its populace through propaganda.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, people run on their propaganda things. Yeah, how they run their campaigns. Yeah, sure.
Right. So that's why the interview is just like mind blowing because I'm like, oh, you're just dropping truth bombs, bro. Because you're like, wait, like imagine a novice person being like, wait, we're run by propaganda, and then you look into it and you're like, oh, we actually are run by propaganda. Then that automatically like, it's like they say like sunlight is the best disinfectant, which is like you just air the truth and then people will figure it out itself. And I feel like his interview was the thing that's going to spark a lot of internal investigation.
Mhm.
What do you think? You agree or?
I don't think so because it's not new stuff.
No, no, I mean with people, regular
No,
people. I'm not saying like the government.
with regular people,
Yeah.
I think people have forgotten what the beginning parts of the war was like, and then they're looking at this as if it's new information. So,
But okay, okay, totally. I won't even say it is new information. Like for me as a novice
sure.
person, because I was not looking at that war at all.
Yeah, no. What I'm
Right.
saying was like, what I'm saying, this stuff was there, but when they came out, there was reasons and stuff for those meetings.
Okay.
Now, if you forgotten and you mention it now, you'd have to look into it. I don't know how many people are going to actually look into it.
For sure, for sure. But what I'm saying is like it was just something that was going on over there. Okay. And then the general narrative was being pushed upon us. We're like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna put this flag, I'm gonna like stand by Ukraine, whatever. But then with this interview dropping, then it's like kind of forces you to look into it. Because it's got like 66 million views right now or something like that.
Yeah. I think 100 million on Twitter. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So 100 million. So now that 100 million people are looking at this thing, it's going to drive more attention to that thing, which kind of may prove Putin's point. All right. So one of his points was like, that I thought was interesting was that NATO was like, okay, Ukraine will be neutral. And then he's like, oh, I started to notice certain military bases. And you're like, hey, you guys got to stop that. And then like 2014, more military bases like, hey, you guys got to stop that. You kind of forced our hand. You said it'd be neutral and it's not.
That's his claim, right?
Right, that's his claim. Now we can look into it. So now you're like, wait, if that's true, I can see your point. Right? Versus before where it's like, oh, all of a sudden he's just attacking.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like,
no, I get that.
Why he's attacking.
Yeah.
But you look into history.
Sure. And I think I saw someone mention this kind of interesting where it's like, since the attack or since the war, more people have joined or is joining NATO because of that.
Because of the
fight
attack?
Yeah, on Ukraine.
What? Because they want to work together? Like,
no, they want to protect themselves against Russia.
Yeah, no, totally, for sure. Yeah, that makes sense. But what I'm saying is that
like these would have been these are countries that were neighboring or close to, and they weren't going to join NATO because they don't want to upset Russia.
Okay.
Now, with the attack on Ukraine, they've decided to join NATO or apply for joining NATO because this could happen to them.
They're worried.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Totally. All right. Let me put it in an analogy. Okay. Because this is just like it's very obscure, and you're just like, I don't really get what's going on. All right. So it's like this. If I ran up and slapped you, right? And then your mom was like, why did you slap my kid? Oh, BJ's super violent. Don't let anybody. And she starts telling people like, and then everyone's like, oh, he's so violent, whatever. And then you ask me my story. And it's like, oh, I slapped you because you did X, Y, Z to me, which warranted a slap. Right? Which I'm saying is that in the beginning of this whole thing, we were just looking at your mom and you story. But now that Tucker Carlson gave him a platform, and we're like, oh, that's why you did that? Now we have to re-look at this whole situation.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're like, right? Like, you're like, oh, maybe he's not as bad. Oh, it kind of makes sense why you slapped him.
Right.
And we have to make our own decisions.
Yeah. Like this was all the stuff. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't new. I've been watching debates since the beginning talking about the NATO thing, where there was there wasn't. Again, it depends on your interpretation. Where there was like either no discussion or there's no mention of expansion of into the east, or what does that mean? These are all, no, totally wordings of law and stuff like that. Yeah,
for sure. So you would be like the person that was silently observing this interaction happen, and then I slapped you. But I'm saying through Tucker Carlson's thing, like 200, you said 100 million people watched it, 66 million on YouTube, whatever. So now that's giving a platform to the aggressor.
Mhm.
Whereas you're like, oh yeah, this was there. It's like, okay, yeah, this was there, but it didn't bring it to light until this very moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And now we're all going like, what's going on?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, if people actually look into it and understand it, then they know, because some of those things I kind of knew or remembered from before, where it's like there's no proof to say that there was no agreement of no expansion of NATO.
Right. So prior to this, if you had said, I think Putin has a point, you would have been like ostracized.
Sure.
Right? Because everyone's like, hey, we're all standing by this thing. You know, we're standing by you and your mom who alleged that DJ slapped you. Right? But now it's not so weird to think the contrary, to think that there may be a point here, because it's like more eyes are on it. Right. So like, although some people may have known, it's like the UAP thing when, actually, no, this will lead into our next topic about the Apple Vision Pro. So I was asked to write like a sector analysis, basically. Like in marketing, you're like, hey, what are the things that could affect your whatever?
Right.
And I brought up the augmented reality is about to kick off, and the UAP thing in my report, and people are like, oh, you're crazy, right? These things sound so outlandish at the time, and then now they've popped off, and everyone's like, oh, you were friggin' precog. It was like, no, I saw this thing happen, right? So it's like, yeah, some of us can know about it, but it's not until everyone knows about it that we can really affect change. It's not as impactful if only a few people know about it.
Sure, yeah.
But we're trying to stay ahead of the curve. But then as it becomes more and more popular, it's like, what are the ramifications of this knowledge? You know?
Right. We'll only know in the next few months.
And that's why I'm like, bro, things are about to get crazy, because if you really look into it, and he's right, some people have some explaining to do.
Right. Sure.
Like, wait, because you told us, you know, like, we're all worried about, like, oh, this is the narrative I heard, like, oh, he's on his deathbed and he's so crazy, he could just launch a nuclear bomb at any moment, blah blah blah, right? And then you see this interview and he's like, no, that's mutually assured destruction. Why would I want that? Like, I want my country to flourish. And you're like, just like all of us would want our country to flourish.
Right.
You're just on an opposite side, and we just have to like play this game, you know? And yeah. So it's like, well, one, you don't have to worry about nuclear war anymore. And two, if he was trying to create peace this whole time and you were saying no, you have some explaining to do.
Right. But I get that. Sure, but he's the one that went into Ukraine. So.
But it's like, okay, but right, you're like, he went to Ukraine, just like in the example, I slapped you. But if you look at the history, it's like, oh, maybe you deserved a slap. You know what I mean?
No, I get that. I understand that. Right.
So you're like,
but that already, right. I think
like, who started it? You're playing the blame game now.
Right. I think even there was a time, not a time, a few years before that, because Ukraine was, or not Ukraine, Crimea was annexed from Ukraine.
Okay. I don't know any of this stuff.
So this is before the current Ukraine war. Before that, there was the annexation of Crimea from Ukraine.
Okay.
And that time it didn't go into war because then he said, I'm not doing any more. This is all I'm going to take. Where's my understanding? Putin.
Okay.
So then there wasn't a war. So that was the peace talks.
Oh my goodness. So you're saying that he has a history of sticking to his word?
No, he didn't though.
Wait, you just said that he said he wouldn't take any more.
And he did.
He did. Oh wait, all right. Tell me that story.
Okay, so he took Crimea.
Okay.
And wouldn't take any more. So that's where there was no war.
Okay.
But then there was a war. A few years later.
Over what?
More of Ukraine.
Wait, which is now. Okay, wait,
which
hold
is
back
now.
up. Okay, so he said I wouldn't take any more.
Right. That's why there was no war when he first annexed Crimea
Right.
a few years
Totally.
ago.
Okay, I see what you're saying. But now let's look at what he said, which is you said Ukraine was going to remain neutral, and then you start building armaments. If you're building armaments, there's a reason why you're building armaments. So you force my hand.
Building armaments where?
He's in Ukraine. He said that.
No, they're not in Ukraine.
Like,
there's no NATO in Ukraine.
no, the American bases. No, not NATO. He said NATO is Ukraine's going to remain neutral, according to NATO. And then he said American bases started popping up in Ukraine, and he was like, "Why are you guys doing this? We said we weren't going to do this." And then it happened again, and he's like, "Okay, time to force my hand."
Mm-hmm.
And also like to bring back Ukraine because Ukraine's technically owned by. I don't know if that's true, but what I'm saying is, if you were the opposition, let's say this was America, right? America's like, "Hey, don't come any closer," and then you start seeing your opposition building bases closer and closer to you. America would be like, "Bro, we gotta do something about this."
Sure. Yeah, that's what happened with the Cuban Missile Crisis, right?
Right. Okay. So I don't know if that's right. I'm just saying right. Like, yes. Okay. So you understand my logic. But when you said like, but then he went to war, it's like you gave me a reason to go to war. It's like, why did BJ slap you? Because of these reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have slapped you I wouldn't have gone to war if you didn't force my hand.
Right. The point is you got to prove that he said those things.
Which is why I'm like, dude, now we have to look into it. And it's like,
right.
If he's correct, you're kind of in the wrong.
That's what I'm saying. The other narrative is like, he annexed Ukraine. He said he wouldn't do anymore. So he's continuing on with more parts of Ukraine, which is also, how do we trust his word? You get what I'm saying? Yeah.
Totally. But if it's just word for word, that's why he said like America's the best propaganda machine. It's just word for word. But what he's doing is saying, look into it yourself. Just look at the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Which he's not like, he could have easily, if he and this is why I was like, oh, you're
that's why there was no there was no question about Crimea or things like that I was looking for from Tucker Carlson.
Okay. Right. But what Putin was doing was, through that interview, he's like, it's not right for me to speak on those things. You go ask that person.
Right. No, I get that. But yeah, but he didn't ask some other questions, right? That was he's dealt with, right? So. Yeah,
but you mean the Crimea thing with Tucker Carlson?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, okay, sure, but he already gave you his explanation why he did it anyways. Which is like, America built bases in Ukraine when they said they weren't going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, forget the Crimea thing about I wouldn't increase it. Like, the real problem is, yeah, I wouldn't increase it, but you started moving in that territory.
Yeah, I don't know if it was American bases or NATO.
No, he said America. He said America, and that's why it became a satellite country. He's like, oh, they're just pumping money to Ukraine and fighting this war
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, so, because they have bases there. Like, they're able to. You can't just like build bases overnight, right? Like, you need to build like.
No.
You need to establish something.
Sure.
Right. Logistics, trade routes, whatever, like physical buildings. So the fact that they were able to defend so quickly, it's like, yeah, because you did have bases there.
Or did you have bases there? That's the question.
He's saying they did. So now it's our job to be like, did they have bases there?
Right.
Wait, when did they say this whole thing was? Because it's like, you're really just proving there's no emotion here. It's just logical arguments.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, you said this, but you did this. And because of that, I had to do this. Right?
Sure.
So
yeah.
I don't actually think the Crimea thing, after he said the whole base thing, like, I think the Crimea thing doesn't matter. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't have moved, but you moved for me. Like, you moved first, so I had to move. You know? Does that make sense?
No, I get that. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. And I think the coming weeks are going to be crazy because people are definitely going to look into it.
Yeah. Now there's more people joining NATO. So if there's any other attacks or any other thing that happens, that's
but what if other people?
Mm-hmm.
What if through this thing people start protesting. They're like, wait a minute, stop the war. There's some like stuff going on, and then people start leaving the NATO thing. They're only joining the NATO thing because of like, again, propaganda. You're like, oh, the Russia's so bad. But like when you hear his point of view,
no, of course, yeah,
like,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, if people start agreeing or has the facts that proving what Putin is saying, right, and people are
like,
protesting against the American government and stuff like that, against it. So that's how these change things happen, right? So if
totally.
The way that they had to leave Vietnam or Cambodia too.
Yeah. So isn't that interesting that you defeated subjectivity with objectivity if it works? Like, let's say we come to an amicable agreement. It's like, oh, Putin did his job, bro. He's just being straight logical, which is what I got from that whole thing. It didn't seem like he was letting his emotions run wild. It was like, okay,
no.
What are the facts?
Yeah.
Which low key I appreciate in a leader. If a leader, like, that was like something Obama did. You know, he wouldn't get angry. He would just be like very calculated. He was a great leader. But just like the Putin thing, it's like, you're not going off.
It's interesting that this guy's been around for a long time.
So he knows, like, if you've been around for a long time, it's like, you know some stuff, bro.
Sure, yeah.
You know how this game works. Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, I feel a lot better now that I'm like realizing where his head's at. It's like, there's no way you're going to go to mutually assured destruction of nukes.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as he said that, I was like, okay, this is off the table. But you know what was really interesting? He was also telling us how it was going to happen too. He's like, they need to they did something wrong. They know they were wrong. So they need to save face and come up with an excuse to be like, hey, we're actually going to pull out because of this.
Okay. Who are you talking about? America?
Putin said this. Yeah, Putin said, like, America is wrong. They know they're wrong. And now they have to figure out a way to save face as they exit out of this war. And he said that. And it was like, that is what you would do because you don't want to look weak against to your people, right?
Sure.
So this was filmed like February 4th or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember when. Yeah, right. And I saw around that time that, I don't know how true this is, but maybe you saw it too. Biden's not going to be sending money to Ukraine. They asked for like, I don't know, 27 billion or something, and he's like, no.
No, I don't know if I've seen that.
Okay, I saw that on social media. I don't know if it's fully true or not. I didn't read more into it, but I was like, oh, that's interesting. They're not going to send money. And then I saw this interview and I'm like, oh, you called it. They're trying to figure out a way to like exit out without looking like fools.
Mm-hmm.
So if we imagine, like, let's say it's March and then America's like, hey, we're just going to leave. Then we're all going to point back to this interview and be like, hey, man, you did call it.
Right.
Which is, I don't know, how do you think that's going to play out for like Western politics? If like Putin turns out to be right about everything. Which is the danger of this interview.
Sure.
That's the danger of this interview.
Yeah.
Right? Like Tucker Carlson is great journalism, but like we got some questions now.
Mm-hmm.
Like what do you think? How do you think that's gonna like result badly? You're like, people forget.
No, I don't know. We'll have to find out and see. I think that if people look into the facts, then we'll know.
Do you think that this could like create some sort of weird destabilization or?
No, I think there's already destabilization amongst their own people right now. It's just going to add more fuel to that fire.
That's what I'm saying. And now you're just like, bro,
because what
are we doing out here?
People already hated America. So there's more reasons to hate America.
That's why I was like, the UAP thing, like this is all timed really poorly. Because it's like, if you look at the UAP thing, you have military people in America, like they're like the top level military people talking against their military with the UAP thing. They're just not looking into it, or like there's a weird cover up. And then now you have like this whole truth thing about like what's actually going on in Ukraine. You're like, wait a minute, you know, it would be wild to see a crazy like Oh, what if it becomes freaking what was that movie? No Way Home or something? The Obama Civil War.
Oh yeah. I don't remember the name. I don't think it's no. Was it No Way Home?
Leave the world behind.
Yeah, Leave the World Behind. Yeah.
So imagine like a couple months. It's like you see some weird destabilization, and then America goes into its own civil war over like distrust of the government or something. That would be wild.
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, that's what.
bro.
That's what enemies of America want to try to do too, right? So, if that's part of Putin's game.
But so, okay, see, even with that, it's like enemies of America, Putin's game. It's like we are still painting him. Like what this did for me was, I'm like, oh, you're a person, bro. Like watching that interview, I'm like, we all think in a very specific, and I think this is important. We shouldn't like villainize people, you know? Even like Hitler, right? I'm sure you had your reasons. If we watch a long form interview, but like, bro, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, that's a bad, like, gas chambers. No, bro. That's not a good idea. Right? But we can come to understanding his point of view. Doesn't mean we have to agree, but you're like, okay.
Of course. Everyone has their reasons there. No one's got, like, no one's just,
they don't wake up evil.
No one's, yeah. Everyone's got their reasons, of course. Yeah.
Like the Dahmer, remember the Dahmer thing? Like, oh, he's such a killer, but then they put out the Netflix doc, and then people are like, oh, I'm feeling sad for Dahmer, and then they're like, oh, stop that doc because we don't want him to be right. We want him to be evil. You know what I mean? You're like, but people are human, right? So like, that was really good. I'm starting to relax off of my perspective of him being the boogeyman, because that was very humanizing. And then people are going to be like, oh, he's an actor, bro. Like, he's lying to you. He's like, he's playing a psyop. You fell for his trick. And you're like, so you're just jaded about everyone in life?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you honestly, like, you think everyone's pulling one over on you, then that says more about you and your perspective than it does about me and my idealistic notions about humans being humans.
Sure.
Because he had some good arguments, man. That's the only thing. It's just like, yeah. Do you think, our last thing on the Putin thing, do you think that was a bad move for Tucker Carlson? You think like, oh, I shouldn't have done that?
In what sense bad move? No, like, I don't think so.
If you believe in America, you probably shouldn't have. You should have kept us in the dark with that one. Because that, you know what I mean? It's like, you kind of gave him a platform, and that platform was a good platform.
So I don't know. I don't know what like his true feelings are, but like Tucker's.
I think he hates America. Eh?
No. There was when they sued Fox News, there was a lot of things that came out, like text messages from other hosts on Fox News, right?
And, interesting. I don't know any about this.
Yeah, and if you watch his segments were for Trump. But then in those text messages, like, oh, it's good that we're getting rid of Trump. We don't want to talk about this guy anymore. Like,
oh, was he like exhausted from Trump, or?
No, I have to get the exact quote, but it was something in the sense that he didn't really care for Trump.
Yeah, but you're on Fox News, bro. You have to play that game. That's why I like him.
No. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm saying. It was a show.
Which, okay, all right, that's so funny. All right, you're like, hey, it's a show, which is Putin's point about propaganda, which automatically, like, all right, there you go again. It's like, yeah, it is a show, but why would it be a show? Because we need to manage the masses. Okay, so you mean you're doing propaganda? You're not doing real journalism? That's why I think him leaving is more like real journalism. And like Chris Cuomo too, like, I don't know any of their political leanings, like Tucker Carlson or Chris Cuomo. I'm just like listening to their interviews. I'm like, oh, that's pretty insightful. All right, cool. And I think that's like the point of looking at multiple things. Like, you really can't trust one thing anymore. You have to absorb everything and be like, what do I believe?
Mhm.
You know, that's like mental sovereignty. That's like you're
Oh yeah,
taking
yeah.
accountability. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
of course. Yeah, people. Yeah, you should be able to think for yourself. Yeah, I don't think you should just follow whatever someone else is saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't. And I put this clip up actually just before we started this podcast of Chris Cuomo saying like, you should look at everything and then look at it objectively. The hard part is it's hard to do that.
Mhm.
And we often want to believe things that are easy for us to believe,
Yeah, 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 we're emotional beings, of course.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
We got like, in order to be as objective as possible, is like listen to both sides and understand that like we're all human, bro.
Hmm.
Yeah, but again, not easy to do because we want to demonize the people that we don't like. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's easy to do.
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Mentally easier. Any other things about Putin?
The whole first hour is just history.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, bro, what are we talking? Like, I was like, all right, we got to power through this bad boy. Like, what are we talking about right now?
Yeah.
That's tough. But that's the part I was like, you gotta fact check that, bro, because
Yeah, like
he's
it depends. I've seen videos after the fact where it's like it depends on it depends on where he started his story of the history. If you go like a few hundred years before that, it was like I think Kiev was like a big city before, where Moscow was just a fishing village.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Where that it ended up growing and then getting Moscow. So it's not really like this person's understanding is not like it's part of Russia. Technically, it's part of Ukraine. If you say it that way.
Okay. Right, for sure.
But again, that's where you start your history lines, right?
Right. And the interesting part about that as well is that that's the exact same thing with like Israel Palestine. Like they believe that it's owned for them, and then other people believe it's not owned for them.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like where are you drawing your conclusions?
Exactly. You know what really, from all this, what I see is Europe is still fighting each other in a way. Like
that's true. You're right. Yeah.
This has been going on for thousands of years, so they're still doing the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's like amazing that North America stayed so uniform.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mexico, Canada, America, we don't fight one another.
No, yeah, I think it would be a different kind of world if it was. It wouldn't be what we have here now. Just don't think so.
Oh, if we were fighting?
If we're fighting, yeah.
But maybe that's the magic of propaganda. We need to keep us all brainwashed so that we're not like thinking of, like we're not thinking too out of the box, and it keeps us all in line.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Like with the news management, like when Putin's like, "Oh, America's the biggest propaganda machine." It's like maybe that's why we're not fighting each other, because because propaganda is really just mind control. Like it is. It's all right. Interesting history about Oh, dude, actually, I just remembered something and I wanted to bring it up because I was like, "That's crazy." Wait, it reminded me. All right, so this is how the train of thought went. So I wanted to tell you the history of propaganda. So propaganda started in World War II, and it was for the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tactic used by the Nazis, right? And then historians and psychologists wrote about propaganda. Okay, so like, oh, you can manage the masses through XYZ tactics. We saw it in World War II. Nazis used it. So marketers co-opted that and they called it public relations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. This is literally the history of communications and public relations. We stole the same tactics. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm like, it's just brainwashing. And if you do that to like a whole country, you can keep them docile because they don't know what they should not know or know.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're literally using brainwashing tactics.
Right.
Okay. So speaking of Nazis, the biggest thing he put out, and I was like, I could agree with that. I see what you're saying. Was the denazification.
Yeah.
That was like a slam dunk. When he said that, I was like, ooh, that's something we can all agree with, which is we all don't like Nazis, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Nazis are bad people, right? So Russia's main enemy were the Nazis. And he's like, we want to denazify the world. And you're like, wait, what do you mean, bro? We're like, we don't have Nazis now. Okay. Operation Paperclip. They took Nazi scientists to build NASA.
Yeah, right.
We gotta denazify that. And the other thing was the thing that happened in Canadian Parliament, which is so dumb, which is like, they're like, oh, this guy fought against Russia back in World War II, and we're like clapping. It's like, yeah, who's Russia's main enemy? The Nazis. Oh, he's a Nazi.
Yeah.
And they had to take that back.
Yeah.
Putin was like, you didn't look into history, bro? Like but that's case in point propaganda. Like, oh, you fought the Russians, you must be good because the Russians have always been bad. Turns out Russia's was enemies with Nazis. So actually, we're applauding an evil person because nobody decided to look into history.
Right.
And Putin was like, nobody decided to look into history, bro. Which is why I was like, oh, you're so logical. Just look into it.
Right.
And yeah. Which is why I'm like, you make some good arguments, bro. Do you agree? Or like with the denazification thing, you're like,
yeah, not something new. I heard that too before.
Right. And then you're like, but if you told anybody that, you'd be like, this is a solid argument, bro. Hey man, I don't like Nazis. I don't like Nazis either. Did you know that through Operation Paperclip, they actually put some Nazis in there? Did you know that your government just celebrated Nazis? You're like, ooh, I guess I'm on your side? Question mark? You know what I mean? Like, like when you go through logic and truth, you like undo so many arguments. Not saying that I support Russia. I'm just saying like you're making some really good arguments here.
Yeah. People gotta look into. People should look into it. Yeah.
But the catch-22 is, if you look into it, you might not like what you find.
I think that I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it's that. I think that people are not going to look into it.
Then you deserve to be manipulated by
like
the masses.
we say it all the time. Look into it. People don't look into it.
Right, but then that says
that's
a lot
the problem.
About, but that says a lot about people.
Yeah.
The propaganda machine. We don't need to look into it, bro. We already looked into it. We know what we're doing. That's propaganda. This is case in point. If you don't look into it, you just proved Putin's point.
Yeah,
which is you're manipulated by propaganda. Which is why I can't have conversations with certain people. Like if they start saying something, I'm like, oh, you just give me talking points. All right, I'm good. Because that's literally
yeah. No, I get that.
That's propaganda. Talking points that you just regurgitate because somebody else said it is propaganda. But you sound like a freaking weirdo when you look into it and they start saying things and they're like, you start tying things together and then you seem like freaking crazy. You know what I mean? Well, that's not what the news said though. It's not what CNN said. You're like, Putin was right. Propaganda's ruling that nation. Yeah. Okay. Oh, what are we at? Because I have some other crazy stuff.
Hour and 7 minutes.
Wow. All right. It's harsh. Okay. Let's go with some are really quick, but two are kind of big. Let's talk about the Apple Vision Pro because the last thing is kind of tied to Apple Vision Pro. So you brought it up. It's so funny because you brought it up at the end of the podcast last week. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll call the podcast Apple Vision Pro, even though we didn't really talk about it. And then like that weekend, some crazy stuff about Apple Vision Pro happened. Like people were just like posting about it. And you're like, oh, okay, we'll make it this week's topic, Apple Vision Pro. So do you said we're headed towards a dystopia at the end of last week's podcast.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what do you mean? But I'm like, I'm kind of on board with that, bro. With the Vision Pro.
I don't mean it like in a bad term. I do like it. I do like the Vision Pro.
People are gonna hate. It's so funny because like I posted that and I shared it, and people were like, "Oh, this is terrible. And then I started posting like the behind the scenes, and people started loving that. I'm like, "Yeah, bro." Like what you see through the glass, like when you see it on the outside, you see people with glasses. You're like, "Oh, dude, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like plugged into the matrix.
Sure.
And then you see from the inside view and you're like, oh, that actually seems so legit.
Yeah.
So are we headed to dystopia? Maybe.
Maybe.
But it'd be cool.
I'll do to Apple though. But yeah. But I mean, Apple's not the only one doing it. But yes, Apple's the main one that has a very good marketing team to spread this.
But I didn't see any. Like Vision Pro, the interface looks so good. How you can like pin stuff and then like you come back to it and it'll stay there. Like that's literally Heavy Rain. Remember we were playing that game like a long time ago?
Yeah.
Like puts on the glasses. It's not there yet, but he puts on the glasses and he can like shift through. Like I want to be in the Mars. I want to be in like. And we were both like, this would be crazy if this came true.
When did that game come out? That's.
Dude, that 2000. Oh, it was PS3. It was like 2010 or something like that. I can't remember. 2009 maybe.
Oh yeah. I think you're right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when the iPhone came out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was in university at that time, and when I saw Heavy Rain, I was talking to those engineers who were taking the classes, and we were talking about. I was like, "Have you guys heard of augmented reality?" They're like, "Yeah, we're learning about it right now." But it was just taking off at that time, and I'm like, "Dude, with augmented reality, can you do this, this, and this?" They're like, "Yeah, theoretically." I was like, "Well, like if you have the car, you swap out the glass for augmented reality glass. Can you see a whole world?" And they're like, "Yeah, definitely." But it was all conceptual and figured it out. And now it's like, oh, we figured it out. You know? And
but you know what's interesting? Yeah, it is. It's hard how to explain this. It's not that like it's still a screen what you're looking at. You're seeing the world, but it's the image from the cameras.
Yeah, totally.
Right, you're not like seeing through the thing. You're seeing the image. Yeah.
It's augmented reality. It is augmented reality, but
it's not in the traditional sense of augmented reality. Yeah.
It's not transparent glass.
Yes, that's right.
But remember the AR IKEA thing? When you showed me that, I was like, dude, this is crazy. You take the measurement of the room and then you could drop the furniture.
AR. Right.
But you're still looking through glass. Like it's the exact same concept. You're looking through the camera at the thing.
Yeah.
You have a medium still.
Yeah.
So I still technically would say it's like AR.
No, it still fits. It still fits in the world of AR. I wouldn't call it VR, right? But it's like just to understand, what that really means. Yeah.
And I think that if they can shrink it down to a consumer-friendly model, like 4Gs is not cute. Like that's expensive.
That's American.
What are we doing? Yeah, what are we doing? And then you need that battery pack in the back. It's like, that's more money. It's like, no. But this is the first iteration. So what happens, like, the iPhone 1 compared to the iPhone 14 Pro Max? It's way more advanced now. So just give it like 10 years. And you know what's crazy? So when I posted that I shared that in this specific place, and people were like, "Oh, that looks like a headache. Oh, that's crazy, whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, nobody wanted a cell phone in the beginning either."
No.
Yeah, nobody.
A cell phone, yeah. Or nobody. The other one was like, no one wants to type on a screen. That was another thing that I remember.
Yeah, nobody wants an Apple Watch tracker. Nobody wants AirPods that'll like not have a wire. We don't want email. We don't want social media. And it's like, yeah, those are just people within the marketing funnel that we just call laggards. They're the very end. You're like, you're going to adopt it later. Right now, this iteration.
I don't know if I would even say in that sense. It's just more like they're just followers. And there's enough, the popularity is there. Yeah. They're just
no. But for sure, that is actually the definition. It's like there's a high technology curve. As one of my favorite classes in university, and like it just broke down the segments of where people buy on the chain.
Right.
So right now it's the early adopters.
Yeah.
No, I forgot the first, like, it's it's like the Trailblazers or something. These
Oh,
people,
okay. Yeah.
as soon as the product drops, people buy right away. And then the early adopters are like, okay, it's kind of catching steam. Late adopters are like, okay, it's safe. And then the laggards are the ones that are like, everyone's
Yeah,
got it.
everybody's got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't want to
all right, I
miss
gotta
out.
get it.
Don't want to miss out. Yeah.
Right. So we're far enough in the chain where the people that are like, oh, I would never get an Apple Vision Pro, it's like, do you have an iPhone? Because just give it 10 years, I'm sure they're going to make it consumer friendly. And then, like, when those contacts come, that's going to be crazy. Cheap contacts, like $50. No, not 50. No. AirPods price, so like $200 for some contacts. You put them in, you like see the world through AR. Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't think we're going to adopt this? Like,
I think so.
you right? You know what I mean? All right.
Just
Yeah,
there's the different things that you can use for it. Like, I think the use case, you've built the use case, you figured out how to use, like, I wouldn't have to have real monitors. I'm saving a lot of space.
Bro, yeah. But it's also kind of freaky because, like, you know, you could live in a box and it
You
looks
could,
like a mansion.
of course. Yeah. But that's I think that's the entertainment value of it, where it's like, you don't like your small apartment condo. I can be on the mountain somewhere.
Yeah. Total. No, 100%. Yeah, for sure. That's kind of creating the dystopia of like Ready Player One, because like they all lived in boxes and stuff. Like, sure, totally.
But it's already happening though. Without
not even that. It's like, what about the psychological freedom like, if you hate if the choice is between a box, like let's say I made no money and I was just living in a box, you really want to live in that box, or you want to save up for like some VR AR stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you want to change your circumstances, so you would naturally want to buy it. It's for the betterment of mental health, I think, if you could feel like a king but you actually are not.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's literally the Matrix. It just makes people happier, you know?
Yeah.
The one thing that I thought though was interesting was I saw this meme where it was like, first they wanted your fingerprint and they got your face. Now they want your eye, like the scan.
Oh, yeah.
Face ID, then like
optic ID now. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is straight out of Minority Report, bro. Like we're there now.
The fact that you don't need a controller, because of the Vision Pro, I got back into the PSVR 2, right? And I was showing you like the hands and stuff, but that I have a controller. Now that with the Apple Vision, you don't even have to have a controller. That's how
crazy, bro.
Crazy accurate you're pointing or whatever you're doing with your fingers.
Yeah.
That's some
why
pretty cool.
Why say no to this product? Yeah. And this is the first iteration, which is crazy. Actually, I saw this one thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, the first one, but the thing is that it's called Pro, which they have never done that before.
Probably because of the price tag, bro. They're like, we gotta.
Probably, yeah. No, there's a marketing thing to it, but I think that eventually there will be something cheaper that won't have the Pro name in it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I saw this thing on Instagram where they were working on versions of the Vision Pro. I think like 2003. It was just a concept though.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have like, it was just like sketched out schematics. So what the person said was like, this is what we're seeing now, like 20 years later. What are they working on right now?
Yeah, that's what I heard, that they were working on this before the iPhone release.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I saw too.
Yeah. So that's,
which is crazy because you're like,
a long time,
bro. Yeah, but they didn't have the tech. They couldn't. And this is the thing about like fantasy, sci-fi video games. Like I love it because it's like it's appearing into the future.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have it figured out yet, but we can present to you the concept of it.
Mm-hmm. So like, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I wonder how much, not in the input of probably the current product, but like the input that Steve Jobs had on it, because they were working on it before the iPhone.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. Touched by God is what you're saying.
Maybe
God, Steve Jobs. Yeah. It would. it would be a total game changer. I really don't see like it seems freaky. It seems freaky. You're like, oh, I don't want to jump into that world. But imagine if you didn't need a phone, you didn't need a computer. You just put on your glasses.
That's what I was thinking.
About the world.
That's what I was thinking. This is going to kill its own products.
But maybe that's what they want. They're like,
sure, yeah. Well, it's a better product in that sense. You get a computer, it's a phone. Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
So,
which would be wild. That'd be so wild.
Mm-hmm.
You're like driving. You're like, hey, where's the gas station? Just like right there.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So I think we could safely say that you and I are on board. We'd jump right in to make it more consumer friendly. You know.
Price point.
Not as expensive.
Yeah.
Not as bulky either. I'll wait till it's like not bulky.
Mm-hmm.
Glasses I can do, but not like a full on. I don't want to look like a crazy person. You know? That's why the Ray-Bans, the Meta Ray-Bans, when I messaged you, I was like, dude, this is sick. Because it literally looks like glasses and like, oh, okay, I can see, I can click, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
If they can do that.
Well, basically, yeah, the Apple one is a computer. Like your laptop,
like,
right?
Yeah, but it's weird though. It looks weird. That's like...
It's like
from the outside, you look like a weirdo.
Sure, yeah, because not everyone's wearing it yet.
No, but that's freaky. Like if everyone's wearing it, I'd freak out. I'd be like, well, that's like we're plugged in the Matrix, bro.
Yeah.
But like if glasses, you're like, I can accept that. You know,
right? Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll probably get to that technology, but I think that's going to take some time to reach that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's when I'll jump on board. Sell all my stuff and just buy that.
I saw people were just wearing like ski goggles and make it look like a Vision Pro.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, that's funny. You know, this actually might give rise to like the whole NFT movement. You know what I mean? It's oh yeah, you just buy stuff for your. It's like skins for your wall.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should invest in some NFTs, bro. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It gives like it gives value to that concept because you can't just screenshot. Like, because everyone's like, oh, just screenshot an NFT. You're right, you could just screenshot. But if you're in the augmented reality world and you pin like an NFT that's only yours, that's different than, you know, a picture on your phone. Because only you would have that on your wall, and then guests come over and they're like, oh, it's a cool picture.
Right.
Yeah. On the downside for this, though, a lot of surveillance. That is some crazy surveillance. Like, we're not getting away with a crime. Like, what are we doing?
It depends. I don't know what you mean.
Like, optic scanners. We have more cameras now. Like, every time I hear about, like, crimes, I'm just like, how does that even happen? Unless it's in, like, a sketchy area where there's nothing, there's no cameras or anything, but, like, I don't know. We're like a total police state.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I understand. Yeah.
It'll just take time, but you're going to be found. Like, yeah. Anything else about the Apple Vision Pro?
It's only in America. I don't know when it's going to be released outside of America.
Oh, damn. All right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the iPads. When I first got it, it was only in America.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Then
iPad. Everyone's got an iPad now.
Yeah. But I was a really early adopter for that.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, I went with you the first day. Went to Fairview and waited in line just to get that iPad.
I believed in the product and think I was correct on that.
Yeah, like a lot of people are using it now. Would you be an early adopter for this one? Like, let's say it's like, oh, it's coming out.
I think the price is pretty high.
I know.
That's the only problem.
It hurts.
Yeah. Maybe if it was 2,000, maybe.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah, I agree.
Right.
4 is too much.
But 4 is also that's American. So for us, it'll be like 5, 6.
Yeah, too much. I don't even want to get into food prices, but like, yeah, because I was at Mel Lastman Square and there was like Tiny Toms. I was like, hey, Jerry, want some Tiny Toms? And we're like, yeah, sure. And then it was like $8 for a tiny bag, and I was like, well, these are the prices now. That's what we're dealing with. So like a $4,000 Apple Vision Pro is like just you're just eating my money everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make this the last thing because this is pretty intense. What time are we at?
124.
Jeez. All right. Check this out. I finished Cobalt Red. Okay. So this is tied into it because basically every single piece of technology requires cobalt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. To like charge, unless you figure out a new battery pack, whatever.
Right.
And
the current technology that we have.
Yeah. So what it's saying, like EVs, everything, like technology, Apple Vision Pro, it requires cobalt. And the problem is it comes from the Congo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And in the Congo, there's less laws and the mines are owned by like foreign investors. So the only way you can make money is if you like work in these mines for like $7 a day. You're like digging through. $7 is like a rich person. Like
yeah, right.
Like, you've been here for a while. Usually it's pennies a day.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll get all this cobalt and then that'll go towards like us and Western nations to create products.
Sure.
But if you go there, it's like barren land, people are dying, just straight slave labor.
Yeah. Kids.
Like a dystopian future.
Yeah.
Children, right? And we get the majority of our cobalt from the Congo.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the truth. And what I thought was really interesting about the book, I won't get into like, yeah, obviously it's sad, whatever. No, I won't say whatever. It's pretty sad and crazy. But aside from that, what was interesting in the book was Africa and the Congo specifically, where a lot of people went to fuel innovation. So the first thing was ivory.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Westerners went there because they created like piano keys, crucifixes, he said, like use ivory for a lot of things.
Right.
So the white man, the colonizer, went there and they're like, okay, cool, like let me trade with you some ivory.
Mm-hmm.
So that the next boom was the Industrial Revolution, and somebody created the tire, but you need rubber for the tires. Turns out there's so much rubber trees in the Congo. So they started to go back and then pillage for rubber trees.
Right.
Crazy. And then the next thing was copper. We need like a lot of copper. Turns out there's so much copper in the Congo. So we went back, instilled our businesses, got the copper. So now we're in like 2020, let's say the 2000s. When the technology started, you're like, hey, we need like recharge packs. Oh, you need cobalt for that. Turns out the Congo has huge resources for cobalt. So they're no like, it's not new to them to be enslaved by many nations in order to get their resources taken away.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here is the crazy plot twist that I realized. Well, one, it makes sense why Africa was so booming back, like Pharaoh's Egypt. There's a lot of resources in Africa. Didn't know about that. But two, they would have been Saudi Arabia if they owned their own stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Crazy. I love that you made that click right away. You're like, yeah, you're right. So the only difference between Saudi Arabia and the Congo. So Saudi Arabia, for people who don't know, is like the lifeblood of oil. But the thing is, that's where we like buy the oil. That's why like the Saudi money, right? Everyone's like, oh, they're so rich because they have so much oil. But the thing is, the Saudis own their own resources. So we have to buy from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So they have a strong government, maybe strong military, I don't really know. But they have enough self-empowerment to trade with the rest of the world.
Right.
So now let's go back in time. Africa, nobody knew what was going on. The colonizers came and they were like, hey, I'm gonna introduce land ownership to you. Because I paid for this, it's mine. So the Congolese were like, okay, sure. And like, hey, turns out I own this plot of land for rubber trees. Like, this is mine now. I'm going to hire you to work on my land. But it's like, but this is our land. This is the Congo. No, but the laws say that this is mine.
Yeah, right.
So globalization, they just entered the global economy too late, and they were tricked into selling off all of the resources. This isn't in the book. He like kind of like quickly went through it, and I was like, wait, no, this is the real issue here. Like he didn't say the Saudi thing. I made this connection myself. This, in case you read the book, you're like, this is not in here. It's
Right,
like, no,
right,
I made
right.
this connection. So because the entire world requires resources from the Congo, technically their GDP should be crazy high because we're all buying and selling from them. But because they don't own their own stuff, we're buying it from other countries. And the one that he brought up the most was China. So China will go there, they'll buy all the mines, they'll buy all the stuff, and then they'll bring it back to their place, process it, sell it off to the West.
Right.
But if you look at the full supply chain, it comes from the Congo.
Right.
So how crazy is it that they're the worst place to live in the world because of the slavery and like the crazy stuff that's going on there, disregard for life, raping, pillaging, all that stuff, because you got tricked from the jump that these resources are not your resources, they're mine.
Right.
Because of a piece of paper. Wild. And I think that's where slavery started. While they were there, I don't know if this is true, but I'm like, I put question marks in the book. Like, is this where slavery started? Because, you know, people like, oh, we went to Africa, we got all these slaves. Maybe they were already doing it, and they're just like, we could export you guys as well. Because why is Africa such a hub for like these resources, slavery? It's like they just got a bad deal,
right,
from the jump.
Yeah.
Mind blow. Which is, but if you're like, oh no, they wouldn't do this. They did that to the indigenous. In this other book that I read, Treaty People, Treaty Nations, which is such a mind blow. It's like everyone can go back to their own country, quote unquote, right? Like you're Indian, go back to India. Filipino, go back to Philippines. Where does the indigenous person go? Go back to Canada?
Right.
But I was here first, it's Turtle Island. That's actually what we call, you know what I mean? And it made me like understand these land acknowledgements now, because it's the least we could do. Call it microname, because like, I mean, technically, if you really look at it, it's like, yeah, you have nowhere to go because we took it.
Right.
You know? So like the Congo, the indigenous, they're in the same boat. They just got a bad rap through globalization. Because colonization is technically like globalization. That's how it all started, like going around taking resources. And them. Yeah. Crazy, right? How do you feel about that? That's just like,
no, I mean, yeah, we mentioned that before, but yeah, that's the fact of our technology.
For sure. No. I don't even care about the tech stuff.
No. Yeah.
That's the point of the book. It was like, you know, look how bad it is here. We have to understand. So like at the end of the book, like you always have a takeaway, right? Like this is what we could do to change it. And like what they're saying is the highest paid person in the Congo in these slave labor cobalt camps is getting paid $7. The average CEO at these tech companies is getting $7 a day. The average CEO at these tech companies are getting $3,000 a day. And I was like, oh, that's a crazy huge disparity. And the person's like digging, whereas the CEO doesn't have to dig, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. Like, yeah, that's crazy. You know, we require that. But I think the real issue here is, why did they get screwed out of the deal from the jump? They could have been Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Which is a bigger issue, you know?
What do you mean by bigger issue?
Because that's the root cause. We would have unsolved everything. Like, who cares about like if you give them back the resources and give them back like strong government money, then they could figure that out for themselves. They won't have to work for $7 a day.
Right. But I don't know if we can give them back now.
No, we can't. But
that's the thing, right?
Craziest takeaway. Yeah, right. But that was the craziest takeaway for me, where it's like Saudi Arabia and the Congo are like the perfect business cases for globalization going wrong. Is going right and going wrong.
Right.
You know, like Saudi Arabia was sick for you guys. You guys have all the money in the world. But then if you don't have good deals, you're kind of screwed. You know what it's like? You know, musicians with their masters? You know, like, I want to get my masters back, these rappers. Do you know this?
No.
How this works?
No.
Okay, so this is crazy. So when you write a song, you create a master track.
Okay.
Like, you know, when you export a video, export a whatever, you export this and you send it to me through the cloud, right?
Yeah.
So that's like the master. Okay, who owns that master?
Yeah. I understand.
And so what they wrote in the music deals is the record company owns those masters. So you're actually just licensing your own music off yourself. Like, you don't even get you don't get to choose what happens to your song.
You're not owning it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why there's this huge movement like Taylor Swift, Jay-Z, all these rappers are all about, I want to own my own masters, right? Because then I own the product, I can ship it around.
You can do whatever you want with that after.
Like,
yeah.
Exactly, right? So like you want to sell it to, like, let's say Netflix is like, oh, I want to use your song. So if you own that, you're like, I get to negotiate
my deal
for myself.
Yeah.
But if the record company owns that, like, hey, I want to use your song. Okay, go talk to the record company. The record company can choose to cut you in or not. Right? Shady. And that's like what you found out through the music industry. But that's no different than the Congo. What's happening right now? You literally just taking what's yours and selling it back to you, or like giving you a piece of your own pie. But it's like, dude, it's my pie.
Right.
And that's why I'm like, this is a crazy business case, because like this is how you get screwed out of deals, bro. Which is what happened in the Congo. And which is what I fear is happening about rent right now. Because there's a lot of foreign investment that's buying up property, like these condos and stuff. They're not like Canadian owned. They're like foreign investment owned. So
you'd have to, yeah. There's some talk about that, but I don't know how much foreign investment is affecting rent.
That's what. No, not affecting rent. Okay, so that's why they put that thing in where it's like you can't just buy a house and let it sit. Remember that whole thing, and then like you actually have to like rent it out to people. You can't just like buy the house.
Yeah.
Right. And so with that, it's not that they're affecting rent prices. It's that you're using our resources, claiming ownership over it, and selling it back to us. We're thanking you for us getting to be on land that was already here for us. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I just know what you're saying. Yeah.
It's just like the Congo people. It's like, hey, that mine is ours. Technically, we own all the cobalt. No. It's under my name, so I own the cobalt. You're working for me.
Yeah.
You're like, what? But it's ours.
Right.
Which is why I'm like, oh, it kind of seems like the rent thing as well. I'm like, it's like the masters. It's like who owns it really matters.
Yeah.
Sure be.
But it's hard to fix that issue to let's say to give it back when it doesn't make sense when you've gone through so many different land ownerships, let's say, but like the one who owns it now, if I give it back, I'm going to lose so much money. I spent so much money to get it. Now you're getting, it's a difficult position.
Yeah. And it's like, even if you do own it, it's like, who owns it? You know what I mean? Like, does the government own it? Like, who do you sell it to?
Yeah, I think, I mean, if they have like, what do they call it? Like, some sort of strong rebel leader that people join together and take over. That's the.
But here's the crazy part, though. We rely on that. So what if the rebel leader is like, okay, I charge you $5 billion per unit? You're like, I can't pay that, and then that stops the whole world economy.
Yeah.
Because we require that for everything. So it's like you can't technically give it back. Like, it's more like a.
I'm not saying giving back. I'm saying like internally, this would be the thing that it would be like I don't want to say it's like a civil war, but a way to. But then you're killing your own people to get things back and stuff like that. But yeah, there'll be a lot of.
How does this play out? Because the reason why the Apple Vision Pro is at $4,000 because they price the cobalt that they need at a specific unit. But if you give the Congolese people back these resources and they start charging us crazier prices, it won't be $4,000 you're paying for. It'll be like, $10,000, $20,000 for this unit because you have to account for that.
Sure, yeah.
Some price.
Yeah.
So how do you solve it? I don't know. I agree with them. Just like introduce some sort of like human resource element to it, like give them some, because they don't even have protective equipment.
No,
They're literally just picking this up with their fingers, and like people are dying. They
but
just kick the
it's
body off.
there's no real government position there, right?
There's no like law.
Yeah.
Only the corporation that owns that mine can choose to do what they will.
Yeah.
So that's why the book ends with like, just treat them like humans. It's like, yeah, okay, that is the only solution we could think of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
But when there's like when there's like so many hands involved in like how it gets sent, it's like, oh yeah, this is clean cobalt, but
no, he said that's a lie.
No, yeah.
Book, like he said that in his interview.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Where it's like you know what I mean? That's the difficult part where people are going to say it's clean cobalt, but probably, of course, not. But like,
it's like diamonds.
Yeah.
Better example is like not a blood diamond.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like how do you know that? But if you buy like a synthetically made diamond that looks identical to a diamond, then you know it's not a blood diamond because it was created in a lab.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what's crazy about that though? Go back to it. Marketing really matters because you only got sold the idea of the diamond.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you know the story of De Beers and the diamond thing?
I think so, but refresh my memory.
Okay, so basically what happened is they had a surplus of diamonds. Diamonds are not rare at all. They're just everywhere in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go, Africa again.
Yeah,
resources, right? So, which is kind of sad. That's why they pillage it. But okay, anyways, so instead of like they're like, what do we do with all these diamonds? And they created the campaign like diamonds are a girl's best friend, and they started making it so you had to buy a diamond for a wedding ring.
Yeah, right. And
that's how that all came about. So when they found out about blood diamonds, people started to make like synthetic diamonds. So like, okay, well this is not like blood oriented. This is like grown in a lab. But then now the marketing campaign is, well, it's not a real diamond. Don't you want a real diamond? So it's like this marketing battle that's just going around. But a novice person cannot tell the difference. Even like a jeweler can't tell the difference between a synthetic one and a real one.
Yeah.
You have to go to like a very specific type of person. But it's like the story we tell ourselves, right? It's like the marketing.
Yeah.
All right, what are we at?
141. Okay,
all right. Maybe we'll just end it there. All right, two quick things. Brother Student, not that good. I'm like almost at the end. It should have just been a movie. Like Tara said that, she's like, it should have been a movie. I was like, at first I was like, no, I don't agree with you. But did you feel that too?
No, I liked it.
It started to like die at the end. I was like, what's going on? It's
like no, I enjoyed it.
Like, okay, I can see how you're enjoying it, but like story wise, like remember when she went to, spoiler alert, she goes to like Taipei and then like all of a sudden everyone dies. She's like, oh, I killed. Like they just tied that up so quickly, like the opposition. So it's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while, or we forgot a lot of stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, all right.
I remember that she went to Taipei, but I don't remember what happened there. Yeah.
That was like the second last episode. I'm on the second last episode, and then she went to Taipei, and then the opposition, the Brotherhood or something, was trying to kill them, and then she's just like, "Oh, everyone just died," and you're like, "Wait, what?" She's like, "Yeah, I went to Taipei and everyone died." That's literally what happened. And it's just, anyways, it started off good. Would have been a good movie. We'll see where it goes. And the last thing is the digital nomad visa for Japan. I thought that was super cool. I sent it to you. Yeah. I was reading into it though. You need to make like $67,000 a year. So I was like, oh, that's a lot of money
to get that visa. Yeah.
But it is kind of cool that when I was in Thailand, I was telling you about digital nomads, you know, and it's like becoming a real thing now because they know through like remote work, globalization, like why do I got to be here? Just go there.
Yeah.
Anyways, Vision Pro, remote work, we're all just joining the matrix.
Yeah, that's what's.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Machines will end up ruling our world. That's what will happen.
Yeah. Putin said it too. He's like, there's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube. Because they asked him about the AI thing. He's like, it's here. There's no way we could stop this. Yeah. All right. Any last things?
No, I don't know.
Save up that money now for that Vision Pro.
Sure. Yeah.
All
For
right.
$7,000 Canadian. That's what it'll be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just too much money. Consumer model. You and I are waiting. Here we go. All right.
Yes.
Till next time. Take it easy, Vish.
Later.
Peace. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all those fun things, and check out our sponsors: Zenro Clothing Co., Portian Bakery, and Podbean. Take it easy, Vish.
Peace.